My dad was a remarkable human being, really. He was a painter and worked in the shipyards in Belfast, and so lived through the war as an apprentice painter, painting those old ships and the hard, cold work. But I never remember my father being out of work. Even if there was no jobs, my father would still work to earn money, and consistently provided for us. And consistently, amazingly consistently, encouraged me not to have to do what he had to do, which of course I completely ignored. By the time I was 16, I hated school so much. I left school and became an apprentice electrician for 5 years. So my dad really didn't want me to be working on building sites and construction sites. But I don't think it was bad for me. And he was a man who believed very much in working for your money and providing and taking your responsibilities seriously. He was very, very hot on how a man should treat a woman with respect and dignity, and encouraged me to always be that way. And he was very, very, very strong in just keeping his word. If you say you're going to do it, you should do it. And so my dad was a huge influence. And there's nothing about any of that that was bad for me. He wasn't strict or difficult or anything. He lived like that, and I admired how he lived, and I admired what he was, and hoped that I could be made of the same stuff. So he was a huge influence to me. But I lived in a very troubled country with a lot of violence, and I had my years of being off the rails somewhat, and had some severe health problems because of that. When I was 11, I took a massive nervous breakdown and was hospitalized. I was unconscious for 3 days. They thought I'd had a seizure. When I came out of that, they tried to fix me with some electricity, and tried to fix me with medication for about 4 years, which really didn't help at all. And it turned out it wasn't a seizure, it was simply a stress-related shutdown. I had these teenagers which were fairly troubled, living in a fairly troubled country. I remember waking up when I was about 11 years old, and there was a tank outside my window, and suddenly the country that I'd grown up in as a little boy was at war, with guns and bombs and tanks and fires, and it's incredible how quickly you get used to stuff, though. You consider something to be the norm. Looking back on it, they were fairly awful times, and they were not good years for me. At the age of about 16, I came to faith. My family weren't church people. They were good people, but they weren't church people. Although in Ireland, every child got sent to church.
I know that you're all busy and you haven't time to spare. I pray your evening doesn't seem a waste. But there's one thing that I'm sure of, but the fact you're sitting there, you good folk in Milwaukee have great taste.